Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of The Mustard Show. With your host, Donovan Menard, and today's very special guest, Jo Becker.
Greetings, my audience. Thank you so much for joining us, the Mustard Crew, on this beautiful day. The sun's out, the birds are chirping, and I'm finally getting psychological help tomorrow afternoon. And we are ready to start Mustard Show Season 2. You guys better get excited, because we got a really spicy show lined up for you, and an even spicier lineup of mustard. And, to be honest, it's been less than a year since I started the very first episode of The Mustard Show, and when I look at the audience that is right in front of me right now, you know, I could not possibly ask for anything better. So thank you.
Aww.
Now, let's get right down to the business. Let's get to the spicy mustard, shall we?
Yeah!
Oh, by the way, it is October 1st, so I think it's time for a little bit of Halloween decorating, if you know what I mean. Just getting in the spooky spirit, right? So, yeah. Alright, you guys can leave.
It's Sans!
Anyway, today, our guest is Jo Becker, who, if you haven't heard of her, is an alumni of Mountain Lakes High School and a Pulitzer Prize winning reporter for a little newspaper called the New York Times. So, it's going to be very interesting having her on the show. But we got some new mustard. We got this, which is a French type of mustard. Oh no. Okay, there's a car. There seems to be a car here. We're going to have to move the table. Move the table.
I got this one.
This may not be the ideal filming location. We might want to move into a more secure place, maybe somewhere indoors where it's not as hot and sunny. But we will be right back. Thank you. Okay. Where were we? All right. We were about to bring in our guest. All right. So, like I said before, we got Jo Becker on the show, a very accomplished journalist. Now, she has a very busy profession, so she wasn't able to join us in person. She's in D.C. at the moment, but she was able to come and FaceTime us. Alrighty. So, without much further ado, here's Jo Becker. How's it going?
Hey, how are you?
Pretty good. There we go. My first question would be, since you've done really a lot of reporting with, Washington Post and the New York Times, and, you've done stuff on Dick Cheney, you interviewed Jerry Sandusky on the Penn State scandal, and then, you did reporting on Putin's corruption, and you wrote that Forcing the Spring book about a fight for marriage equality, which was really successful, and then you actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were one of the people who first uncovered that scandalous meeting with Trump Jr., the Russian officials. Got 3 Pulitzer Prizes, right?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So I just want to ask, out of all of that, what do you think would you consider your most proudest work in writing and journalism?
It has to be the book. I think it's kind of a labor of love. I mean, I worked for 5 years on that book, and I filed plaintiffs in the first 2 cases that went to the Supreme Court on marriage equality. And that book actually started because I knew Ted Olson, who was one of the lawyers that was involved in that case. Ted was a sort of conservative that liberals loved to hate because he had won Bush v. Gore. And so when he signed on to do this case in favor of marriage equality, I was like, whatever the story is that brought him there is a really fascinating one.
Yeah, great. That's really cool. And about marriage equality, I've heard a lot of people express fear about if Kavanaugh gets confirmed. A lot of people think maybe the legalization of gay marriage could be in danger. Do you think that's a rational fear, and do you think we should be looking out for that?
Well, look, nobody can predict how a justice might rule. So there's that. That said, I think it would be, if Kavanaugh is confirmed, I think that there is also a school of thought that says that he would not undo the legacy of his mentor, Anthony Kennedy. Of course, Kennedy retired, and Brett Kavanaugh's been nominated to take his position, and this was Kennedy's sort of signature group of decisions was all around more equality for the LGBT community. And so there are those that think, that's not something that he would touch. That said, would there be cases like, I'm sure you followed the case involving the baker? Bake wedding cakes for same-sex couples getting married. Would he side on cases like that with plaintiffs like the baker, possibly? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Another thing I wanted to talk about was it seems like, especially recently, there's been a lot of anti-media and anti-journalism sentiment. The president has called the media the enemy of the people, and labeled a lot of mainstream news stations and newspapers as fake news, and it's just really tragic. But there was a couple months ago a shooting at a newspaper in Maryland, I think. Do you think that freedom of the press is in danger more than it has been before?
I think it's under assault, and I think that in terms of the rhetoric used, President Trump has definitely ratcheted it up. To call the media the enemy of the American people, those kinds of terms used to be reserved for our enemies abroad, Soviet Union or traitors and so forth. So the rhetoric has definitely ratcheted up. That said, I will say that both sides have engaged in bashing of the MSM, as people call it, when they don't like what we write. And unfortunately, one of President Obama's legacies is that he conducted more leak investigations than any other president up to that point. And they're trying to find out who our sources were. He also, unfortunately, was very non-responsive comparatively to Freedom of Information requests, which are, requests made for public documents that the law says should be public. So I think this has been going on for some time, and I think it's really unfortunate. I think that we would be in a better place in this country if people had a better dialogue and weren't just going to news organizations that only reinforced what they already believed. So, back in the days of Watergate, for instance, where you had an investigation of a sitting president and so on and so forth, you had trusted, the people trusted big newspapers. Washington Post broke that one. I think this erosion in trust in the media has also led, unfortunately, to a situation where you have people just essentially the whole concept of truth is under assault. What is truth? Is there any such thing as truth? Of course there is. Of course, as you know. But by bashing all the institutions, whether it be the press or the Justice Department or the FBI or you name it, you're essentially bashing the institutions that we rely on as a country to tell us what is in fact true.
Do you think there's a way that we can like heal this divide and sort of like restore trust in the media? And do you think like there's anything that young people could do to help maintain freedom of the press?
Well, one thing that I would suggest to your viewers is stop getting your news on social media. Don't Facebook or Snapchat or Twitter or whatever you're using. Don't let iPhone just feed you sort of what the news of the day is. Because when you do that, what you're really doing is you are essentially letting algorithms dictate what you see and what you read. And those algorithms, as we've learned from this last election, can be manipulated by bots controlled by, say, Russia, and so on. So pick a couple of like trusted news sources, whatever they are, and go get your news there. And don't sort of just rely on your friends' social media to kind of like inform yourself. I check ProPublica regularly. They do big investigative pieces with lots of different news organizations.
Is that ProPublica?
ProPublica.
Okay,
yeah. You know, if you're really into financial news, you might like the Financial Times or the Economist. But whatever it is, you know, pick a mainstream publication and don't, like I said, don't just get your news from social media or from outlets whose view you agree with. You know, don't be challenged.
All right, great. So, yeah, take our advice, kiddos. That's important. And what would you say is your favorite band?
Oh, that's a good one. It depends, I guess. So, classic rock, I'd say the Rolling Stones. Right now, like, what am I listening to? I really like a reggae artist called Polly Cook. I'm trying to think what's on heavy rotation. The Roots is also another band that I'm really.
All right, fantastic. And I think you were in the class of 1985, right?
That's right.
Yes, here at Mountain Lakes High School. So I wanted to know, like, to aspiring journalists in high school, what would you say, what advice do you think is most important for them to know?
Read, definitely, because part of being a good journalist is being a good writer. And I think that being a good writer starts from reading really good literature and good books. And the other part of being a good writer, I think, is essentially trying to create your own voice in writing. You know, just start writing about the things that matter to you in your own community. Even you could start a kind of a mini a mini blog. Or right now at the New York Times, we're loving podcasts right now. I don't know if any listen to The Daily, which is a great podcast that we do at the Times. But you know, I suppose do some sort of a podcast on mountain lakes or even so write about what you know and try to write clearly in the way that you would tell a story to a friend.
All right, fantastic. Thank you for that. I want to start listening to podcasts too, you know? I feel like you can do that while you're doing something else. And you can be like doing a thing and also like learning, you know. That's pretty nice. Anyway, I just want to thank you so much. I did get you this gift. It's this is a very special mustard that I purchased in France. The name is in French, so I don't really know what it is. But obviously, I can't give it to you, you know, through the computer. But if you ever do, you know, stop by the area, just know that I've transferred the ownership of this to you, so you can have it.
I look forward to it.
All right, fantastic. And is there? What's that? Oh yeah, of course.
Thank you again for having me on.
Thank you so much. This was a very spicy interview. See.
Take care.
Okay, that's all, folks. Thanks for watching. Remember to think about that kind of thing. Listen to some podcasts. Read some, you know, some real news, not Snapchat news. it takes a few minutes, but it'll really help.
One more thing I forgot to mention is that I will be putting the link to Miss Becker's book on the fight for marriage equality in the description. So if you want to check out that book, click the link in the description.
All right, farewell.